Welcome to Story Punk. I am Scott.
I'm Drew.
And we are here today to talk about the movie Warfare that came out not too long ago.
Earlier this year.
Earlier this year, April, I think, of 2025. And so why don't we kind of just roll right into it, kind of just give you a little, talk a little bit about.
You're going to give us a little recap of what the movie is about?
Yes.
Because that shouldn't take long.
That shouldn't take long, yeah. It's not much. Basically, the film recreates the real firefight that happened in November 19th of 2006 during the Battle of Ramadi, I believe?
Correct, Ramadi in Iraq.
And this is specifically about a platoon of Navy SEALs that secured a small 2-floor apartment building as sort of an observation post as they acted as...
That was part of the strategy of how we were fighting our way through Ramadi was establishing specific observation posts, not permanently because they were in people's homes.
Yes. And it was they were just acting as support, this particular platoon, for other units that were trying to secure the city. That was my understanding. And basically what happens from that point on is a series of escalating events that unfold in real time as they wait for extraction from that particular area. And the story is based on actual recounting of the platoon members who lived through the experiences. And in fact, one of the characters, quote unquote, that is in the movie, he was the comms operator guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was the
Ray
co-director,
Mendoza.
Ray Mendoza,
right?
Who was actually there that day. And you see him. He is actually portrayed in the movie. And
well, keep in mind that the movie had a very specific, I guess, disclaimer in the credits. I don't know if you remember. I'm pulling it up right now, actually. It's about what it's based on, and
yes.
What it's based on is the memories,
yes,
and some photographs. There's
yes.
no newspaper article. There's no book. Anything like that. It's very interesting that that's explicitly what they say. I don't know that anybody's going to come at this movie about the facts anyway. Oh, here we go. The film is based on interviews with people involved and a handful of photographs. The film attempts to reconstruct the incident with as much accuracy as memory allows. That really struck me just because it's unusual about a true story, but also it highlights what the movie is, which is these men's personal experience. And that's pretty much all we look at in the movie.
Yeah, and so sort of some of the themes that you see through here, and speaking of it being about like their memories, it's sort of like this memory as like trauma. Also, you have, and just as you see in a lot of these war movies, especially guys that are in situations, sort of these high stakes, tense situations, the brotherhood that sort of comes through. Definitely there is a deglamorization of war. There's not, I don't feel like that they're trying to let you feel like, hey, this is a cool experience. This isn't the Michael Bay experience of
well, yeah, I mean some critics and people like regular people in places, I guess, like Reddit or whatever. I don't mean to say Reddit in a negative way. I enjoy Reddit, but they're like, this is a fascist recruitment video. I'm like, I don't think it's a recruitment video.
You must have turned it off.
Yeah.
You must have turned it off like 20 minutes into the movie.
I mean, the only fun thing in the whole movie is the song at the beginning of the video,
where the guys are just like being goofy.
I remember how that was like. I always liked that video just because it's just really sort of unapologetically sleazy, sexy, trashy, and I was like, okay, own it. That's cool. And so that was just a funny way to introduce them as everybody laughing, and you see who's not laughing.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who was laughing or not because I can't tell any of them apart during the movie.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about this, is that because it also comes, there's sort of that thematic element of, is the mission worth the cost? I mean, without knowing all the specific details. I mean, we have an idea of what's going on here.
We don't really know.
Yeah.
Within the movie, we don't really know what the mission is.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to explain this is in Ramadi. This is what was happening.
Yeah.
This was in 2006, and how long we've been in Iraq, and why we were there, and if our mission changed. Like by the time you get to Ramadi in 2006, people aren't looking for, weapons of mass destruction and things like that.
Yeah, we're kind of past that point, and then and I think that it's and I don't want to get too much into the
Yeah, sorry for diverting.
No,
us.
no. What I'm saying, because what I'm getting ready to bring up, I don't want to get too much into the closing sequence.
Yes, that's fair.
The very end. But I think
Even though I just read the disclaimer at the very end.
No, that's not what I was talking about. But when you contrast that opening scene with all of the SEALs watching the goofy sexy video, music video that's and then compare that to where we are at the very end of the movie. It's basically like the last two shots of the movie. It's such a stark contrast of what's happened, and and also I think it's interesting too when you talk about this memory as like trauma, because this movie when I was sort of doing some research into it after watching it, Ray Mendoza, he was inspired to make this movie because the guy Elliot, who and obviously this is spoiler territory here,
the one played by Cosmo Jarvis,
yes.
the latest entrant into the Tom Hardy lookalike club. He's very good, by the way.
Yes, he is very good. But that person, the real life person, Elliot, I forget
They just call him Elliot. Everybody just has one name in this
Yeah.
movie. Elliot, Mikey, Sam, John.
But he is the real life guy has no memory of that sequence of events,
And he can't speak, right? Didn't he lose his speech
he lost
as well as a leg?
He loses his leg.
Yeah.
I don't know if he. I thought. I mean, they
like I
show
read
a
that.
little video, like an actual video of
On the
series,
set.
yeah,
Yeah.
of him on the set at the end. But he had no memory, and this is sort of a way for Ray Mendoza to kind of show him what happened. This was one of the things that inspired him to make the movie, and that's why at the end you see it's dedicated to him.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end.
Yeah, I mean, he lost a leg and suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah. So, but that's sort of where we are. Sort of the setup of the movie and sort of the themes that we're kind of talking about here. So, what else would you like to add about the as far as the plot? I mean, I know you had some thoughts about story wise as far as what you thought.
Well, I mean, we can talk about this at the top. I think that this movie is good and very well crafted, and we'll talk about what I mean by the good part as we go along. But this director, Alex Garland, who has directed a number of movies at this point and a television show and written even more movies, almost all of which are at least very good, if not great. I've seen all of his stuff except for Devs, the TV show, and Men, his feature Men. His last movie was Civil War, which I really, really liked a lot. And I feel like some of the reaction, not nearly as much as Civil War, but some of the reaction is to this movie is not what I thought it was or not what I think it should be, expressed by people who probably haven't even seen the movie yet. So there are people who are writing reviews, like in Deadline, saying this is a hagiography of American soldiers. This is an excuse and glorification of imperialism and all this kind of stuff. I don't think that's in the movie. You can have your opinion about the Iraqi war about that, and that's fine. But I think the movie is so deliberately focused. I mean, it is a bottle movie. Mm-hmm. It takes place essentially in one block, which is sort of like Dog Day Afternoon and lots of other things. It's not a building, but it's a block of the city. Uh-huh. And the movie is very deliberately focused on that. You can decide you like that or you don't like that in a war movie, which is what some people did. But I basically knew that that's what the movie was and didn't know anything else about it. other than the sound design was supposed to be amazing, which we'll talk about that too. But in some ways, it's almost hard for me to talk about what the movie is about because I don't think that I wouldn't ask a question like, "What's the point of this movie?" But it's not about a lot of things in some ways because it's about a few very specific things because of the way that it tells its story.
I mean, it sort of reminds me of like think about the thing. You know what I mean? We don't. You know, we don't know a lot, we don't know really any backstory. I mean, anything that we would find out about these quote unquote characters. You know, I feel weird calling them characters because these are real people.
They're still characters in a movie.
Yeah, they're characters in a movie, and you know, I know some of the names were changed because some of the guys are actually still active duty.
Yeah, all their faces at the end, a lot of them are blanked out, and I presume that's for security, or some people might have just said like, you know, I don't want my face my real face in the movie type of thing. I don't know.
And with that sort of thing, the when you
excuse me,
I just totally lost my train.
I coughed you off the tracks.
No,
I apologize.
No. I know what's wrong with me. I'm getting old. But
go ahead, Grandpa.
When we look at, you know, as we were saying, that we don't really know anything about their backstory. We just know. I think really what it comes down to, and this is when we had talked about the thing. It's really just it's storytelling at its most potent, where it's just all we really care about is that we want these guys to survive. So I don't know really anything, and some of them I couldn't even remember their names. Like I know Joseph Quinn's character's name was Sam, but that's because they were yelling his name because he got hurt.
Right.
I don't William Poulter. I didn't remember his name at all, and he talks a lot in the movie. You know, he's got a sizable chunk of dialogue.
Oh, he's one of the more familiar actors. His name is Eric with a K.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm saying like he's one of the few ones that I remember their name. But to me, it was kind of like my experience of watching Black Hawk Down.
Yeah,
which certainly has some similarities to this movie, but is a much bigger movie. And is a Ridley Scott movie, so it's much bigger and longer. Yeah. This movie's only 95 minutes, I think, including credits. Yep. And that movie is full of Black Hawk Down is full of actors you know and recognize.
Yes.
And you still can't tell most of them apart because they're all in the same uniform and they're covered in, you know, debris and dirt and all that kind of stuff. And so going into this, I kind of thought that's probably going to be a challenge, and I don't know how much it will matter.
Yeah,
so
and I think it's just
it didn't take me out of the movie.
It didn't, because you really feel like it is for me. It is, you know, if you kind of boil down a story to, you know, I always hear like when I see these clips of like Aaron Sorkin talking about like the components of storytelling, it's like obstacle and intention, and then action. So you have like the or intention and obstacle. So you have these guys, they want to get evacuated, and you know, you have this militia guys that are out there that are trying to stop them, and they're trying to do everything they can to get their you know, to facilitate that extraction to come as quickly as possible. And that's all there is to it. That is the story. You know, and it's very focused, and it's just like everything that they can do is really what this is happening in this movie is to get out of there.
Well, and also, I mean, the movie, you don't find out these things until you watch the movie, and then you go later and you start looking up stuff.
Yeah.
It's not so much. I don't read a lot of film criticism before we have this conversation because I want to sort of form my own feeling about the movie. But I do like to do, we were talking about this just before we started, I do like to look at behind the scenes stuff and learn more about how the movie was made and all that kind of stuff. And like, these people are, of course, real people with real lives and real histories and everything. And you know, the "Call on Me" song from the beginning of the movie, the real platoon watched that before every deployment.
Okay,
so you don't know that from the movie.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
But
know that either.
It's funny to have that kind of, this is realism detail about these real people that you would never know. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, the world building is deeper than it looks.
Yeah.
Because and that's, you know, that's totally appropriate. I mean, it's like you said, it's we are in this specific situation, we have to get out.
Yeah.
But who's in this specific situation? Real people.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of like where it gets you, how you get invested is where you feel like, I think the realism is where you can connect, because you're not, once again, you're not connecting on any kind of level where you don't know, this guy has a sick mom at home, or, they have a girlfriend. You're connecting, and these guys are living a real experience, and part of it, I think, with like the dialogue, it's very jargon heavy dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like, and I think that sort of lends to the realism. So you're sort of like, so you're kind of like, and I don't know if that helps connect you necessarily to them on a personal level, but it does make it feel like this is a real situation, and these guys are desperate.
Well, you have to learn the call signs. You have to learn the lingo. There's only one acronym there were things I didn't know, but there was one acronym I didn't know that they then actually, like, in the next moment, they actually said what it was, which was MAM, which I'm already forgetting, like something about military armed men type of thing. Like, these are people that look like civilians, but they appear to be combatants or something. But everything else you have to learn. The call signs, you have to learn when they call in air support. What does that mean? And it's military, so they love alphabet soup and all that stuff anyway. So
I never thought of like what like they were saying, calling in because they made a differentiation between when they called in the air support between actually trying to do something or show force.
Yeah, which is the only air support. Yeah, which is the only air support that they get.
Yeah,
is the show of force, which is, I mean, if a jet flew down your street, it would be pretty amazingly loud and everything. And
I know it's crazy to think that their only like thing that was helping them was just the hope that when this jet comes down, that those guys will probably duck for cover,
right?
And that's it. And then but how long is that going to last?
Well, again, in Black Hawk Down, one of my, I think one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. I'm certainly not the only one to say this. Is the Little Bird scene when the gunship comes down into the city and where the soldiers are pinned down at night and starts raking the buildings around them, and it's so loud and it's genuinely, especially in the theater, it's genuinely frightening, and it's really a big deal. And these guys didn't even have access to that. They had the intimidation part, but they didn't get to call in somebody else to shoot at them till the other unit of SEALs showed up, and then the Bradleys showed up at the end. Yeah,
and that was, and I did think of Black Hawk Down a lot.
Sure.
Especially the guy's wound was very similar to that scene.
Oh yeah,
I mean that was something that was a
and again real wound really happened.
Yeah,
that makes it more intense.
I know. That's crazy. But that is definitely a Oh,
I'm sorry. There was one other thing I was going to say in response to what you said. You talked about how we get to know these guys. One of my favorite movies, never mind war movies, is Saving Private Ryan. And Saving Private Ryan with the soldiers looking for James Francis Ryan, excuse me.
Yeah, get it straight.
Yeah, because you can find the wrong James Ryan, we discovered. Yeah. But
young Nathan Fillion.
That's right. Is he the deaf? No, he's not the deaf one. It's the other guy that's deaf.
Yeah, he's the one that they tell his brother.
Right. He's like,
they're like little kids.
Yeah, which is horrifying and funny.
Yeah.
That follows, which is deliberate. It follows the World War II movie template. This guy's Italian. This guy's Jewish. This guy's a country boy. All that kind of stuff. And this movie does not do that, even though they are, obviously men from different ethnicities, different backgrounds. The only reason they're together is because they all enlisted and that sort of stuff. But it doesn't, you can't slot the characters into that. You do have to, I think little that it lets you do that, you have to get to know them as people. And for me, it's the screaming.
Oh God, yeah.
The screaming, which is the biggest way I could distinguish characters.
Yeah, well, that was
wounded.
That's why. Yeah, Joseph Quinn. You're like that. That's why I remembered his name. It was like I remember his name, Ray, and Elliot. I remembered.
Sure.
Of course, he was the other guy that was massively wounded.
Also, keep in mind, there were people that got hit by that IED that didn't get their legs blown off, or like that poor interpreter get himself blown in half and killed.
Yeah.
But I mean, Eric, that's Will Poulter's character in real life. He suffered a traumatic brain injury from the concussion,
Yeah.
and so all that sort of stuff. So, and that was not only a huge explosive, it was also a white phosphorus. I don't know if you remember, but there's a line where
burning.
he says like his leg is still on fire.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that's the white phosphorus, which is a horrifying weapon. So
Yeah. But it was that was one of the things. Well, actually, that's more getting into the technical with the sound, so I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's so hard because with this movie, that they're so like all that.
Well,
stuff
it's
so
all
intertwined.
put together.
Yeah.
It's the craftsmanship it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And you watched it on headphones and
I
had
did
an
watch it on
incredibly immersive
headphones.
experience,
It
and I watched it
was-
with surround sound
it
and
was a
had
little
an
freaky.
immersive experience, and it's really intense.
But if you don't have any more to say about like sort of like the writing plot character parts of it, we're going to go a little bit more into the acting. If like
Yeah, go for it. I mean, the writing is it's harder to evaluate in some ways because it's as simple as you said, and it's like either that works or it doesn't. And this is one of those movies, it sets such specific goals and it reaches them. You can decide if that at a larger level works for you as a movie, but that is what it is, and part of it is the simplicity of the script. Because I also thought of that movie, I can't remember the exact name, but it's the one that Clint Eastwood did about the 325 to Paris or whatever, with the three American soldiers on vacation who foiled a terrorist attack on a train. It came out a couple of years ago, and the soldiers played themselves.
I do remember,
and
that.
it's a true story. In this one, the guys don't play themselves in warfare, which is good because it's not their fault. But the soldiers playing themselves in the Eastwood movie, they're not good actors.
Yeah.
And the movie is dreadfully boring, and it's unfortunate because it's a powerful story. Except the story in that Eastwood movie is like 90 seconds. And this movie, Warfare, is in real time for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And you feel that length of it. And that is a deliberate script writing decision because, again, they could have, we see them watch the video and then cut to the city at night. And
I mean,
it's not the whole thing.
That's
isn't
the only jumps.
Yeah, it's not completely in real time, but it's pretty close.
Once I think once the sun comes up, then I think that's when we're pretty much
that's fair.
because it's like there's the video, then there's them on the city streets, and then they
enter the house,
encountering the family inside the house, and then I think then they show the sun up, and then we're kind of on the I think I did see some people online thought that it did. I think some people, whenever it comes to any kind of a war movie, people want there to be some kind of people want some statement one way or the other about war, and I just feel like it's not that type of movie. I feel like this is just like I feel like if there's a statement to be had, it's made in seeing the horror of what actually happened, and then you take out of it what you want. Whether you want to say, "Oh my God, you feel that it's patriotic because look at the sacrifice they're making," or you feel this is awful because of what they sacrificed. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like it's just kind of putting it out there, and I don't fault the movie. Some people fault the movie for that. I don't. I feel like it's out there for you to say because of the fact that I don't feel like they pushed it one way or the other. I feel like they said, here it is. And I feel like you can, no matter what side you come down on that, you can, like I said, you can either feel like this was, feel like this is so patriotic because they made that sacrifice, or you can feel like what a freaking waste because they look at what they sacrificed.
Right.
To do this for what?
Right. Which is, I mean, that is the greater tragedy of a lot of the wars that we've been fighting in the 21st century as Americans. And, what you're saying is part of what I mentioned before, which is people not liking the movie or not thinking the movie is enough of something because it's not what they want. And I don't think in general that's a fair way to evaluate the movies. But I think it was Truffaut that said no war movie is actually anti-war because essentially the spectacle of it and the glorification of it and that sort of stuff. And I understand that and have watched a lot of movies that in more recent era I mean, Saving Private Ryan, the first 25 minutes is so violent.
Yeah.
And people are getting dismembered and all that kind of stuff. And it is an incredible spectacle of filmmaking. But there's nothing that makes me feel like I want to be on the beach. I'm a hero. Even though in that story, those men did do something genuinely heroic. I mean, we were able to begin the liberation of Europe because people got off those beaches. I mean, that is the definition of military heroism, but it's horrifying. And as soon as they open after everybody's throwing up, as soon as they open the front ramp of the boat, they immediately start getting killed by a machine gun fire, and it doesn't let up.
Yeah.
And this movie is kind of like, I guess the last half of it or more is that kind of intensity, but it has much less context just because we as moviegoers, I mean, everybody knows what D-Day is.
Yeah.
When they see that movie, they know what D-Day is. They may not know what it meant or what it was like on the beach, but they know. People can't find Ramadi on a map. They don't remember what we were in Iraq for in the first place, that kind of stuff. So that makes it more personal. And I do respect the idea in movies and in real life, you're not fighting for this cause or this country, you're fighting for the guy next to you. And I haven't served, so I'm not going to pretend that I've experienced that, but I do think it's important to note what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
And this movie doesn't really care about that.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I feel like it's just, well, I mean, I feel like I've said it like 3 times now. So, but
Well, you can always edit it out.
Yeah, right. But it's just you do what you take from it. What I mean, it's out there for you to kind of take what you will from it. I didn't feel like it was pushing one way or the other. It's sort of like, this is what happened. So take from it what you want.
Yeah. Without being shot in a verite style. There's not a lot of handheld stuff. It's not, we're on the beach because we're in the street, like we're a news cameraman and the camera's all shaky and stuff like that. It's a lot more locked down like that.
Yeah.
That makes the screaming and the wounds much more disturbing because you're just seeing it.
Well, I mean, they do. I mean, it is shot like this shot handheld though. I mean, it's not.
Yes, but it's not. The point isn't. It's not like and I like his movies, but it's not like a Paul Greengrass movie where you really are like, am I supposed to feel the intensity of it because I can't tell what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, you are always aware of what's happening to a given character when they're in frame, and you start to get a sense of the geography that they're dealing with.
And you know, it's
just as they do.
That's actually a good segue into sort of the technical part of it when we talk about like the cinematography. So they used a DJI Ronin 4D, which it's a 6K camera, which I thought they only made drones, but apparently because I looked it up and I said, what does this actually look like? And it's a regular digital camera.
Is it on the smaller side?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely on the smaller side. But what I thought was interesting when I looked up, so David Thompson, who is the cinematographer, I looked him up. He is the majority of his work. He was a Steadicam operator.
Oh, okay.
So which makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess they wanted someone that was going to be able to run and gun like really well.
Yep.
And that's like the bulk of his work is that.
But remember, it's Steadicam.
Uh-huh.
So the Steadicam is so that you can run down the street in a battle scene and still see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that is done effectively in the movie. So I'm not shocked to hear that that's his background. Also, do you know where David J. Thompson is from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
That's right, local hero.
Balmer.
And he worked on stuff that movies that I really like Silver Linings Playbook and Hunger Games: Catching Fire and stuff. So this is a guy who has earned his way up the ranks.
And but they also tried to. I know that one of the things I read is how they had tried to avoid. They didn't want to do any of the movie magic shots. There were no slow mo shots of American flags waving. And I'll be honest with you, now that I think about it, and I'd have to rewatch it to deliberately look for it, I don't remember seeing any American flag shots at all, which would make sense where they were. You wouldn't see American flags, and I don't think they would want to, other than maybe...
They could have had a scene of them loading up and leaving the base and stuff, and instead they cut to, we're already in the street, it's nighttime, we're geared up, we're
and that makes
moving.
sense. Yeah. And it totally makes sense that you probably, they're not going to, with in the context of the movie, there would be no reason for them to be, waving a flag around. That would be actually kind of counterintuitive to their mission. They don't want them to know that they're there, and it was a so. But they wanted to. I know that they wanted to have like just like you said, like good steady shots of what was going on, but they also wanted to be able to kind of get in there and run around with the guys to be able to get those to kind of convey that sort of the intensity, but at the same time be able to see what was going on.
And those are all part of the larger choices made by Alex Garland as the director, and they do all fit together. And I think they work. We'll talk about sound in a minute, I'm sure.
Well, that's what I wanted to.
Yeah, I mean they all work more focused than some movies that we've seen.
Yes,
like very deliberately, and I think they pull off what they want to do. So.
I definitely think so, and they but and then as far as the sound goes, well, first of all, I think it's interesting before we get into the
excuse me
of the real sound stuff, but there is no score.
Right.
So and I think that while you and I are both big fans of movie scores, and I love a good movie score, I do feel what I do like about there being no score, it sort of follows that theme of they are not pushing you to feel one way or another, because there is no score, because the score definitely is meant to invoke emotion. So there is no there's nothing there. It's, you kind of have to decide for yourself. How do you feel about what's happening right now?
Well, I had no problem figuring out how I felt.
No, that's true.
No, because what I found, the silence, the real silence, especially at night at the beginning of the movie, that made me more tense than anything else. Because I know it's a war movie, so it's going to break at some point, and I believe that's an accurate representation of whatever I've heard from people or read from people who've been in combat, is that it's boredom and then moments of extreme fear, and the contrast of those, which the movie also captures well. But just them walking along the street, working their way into that home, discovering there's a separate apartment upstairs, they have to break the wall, all that kind of stuff. That was so quiet.
Yeah.
Sometimes even completely silent. That really unsettled me more than I expected.
Well, there is things that I find with the sound that are really like just really get me is the scene, like when you have an intense action and then the silence right directly after that. The when they first drop the grenade inside the hole where Elliot's looking out the hole in the wall.
Yep.
And they throw the grenade in there and it goes off, and there's sort of, it's not completely silent, but because they're all there's stuff going, they're like talking and everything, and then that you hear the grenade go inside, you see it,
you just kind of look at it for a second,
and then it's like boom, and it goes off, and then it's kind of quiets down, and it reminds me of there's a scene in regardless of what I'm not gonna defend it as a good movie, there's a scene in the movie Vanilla Sky when Tom Cruise
it's a terrible movie.
Okay, I know you were gonna say, but anyway,
the original is really good.
Well, no, I've seen both. The original is better, but the scene where Tom Cruise's car goes off the bridge,
Sure,
and the deliberate choice to not only, I mean, did they not do any kind of like an explosion or anything like that? The car just goes off the bridge and hits. There's a lower wall, hits it, and the car just sits there.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
And then it's quiet, and you're like, that's really, and then people start running over, and then it kind of clicks in your head like, that's probably what would really happen,
right? It's a movie, so it has to blow up.
Yeah, but, I know. Yeah. So you kind of, as a moviegoer, you get so trained to. It almost reminds me of. I'm going to go way even further back. Last Action Hero, with the scene where taxi cabs are going by, and Arnold's like, "Here's an explosion for your movie," and he shoots the taxi cab, and the bullets just go through the back of the cab, and nothing happens. And he's like. He looks at his gun. He's like, "What's going on?"
Yep.
It's like that's real life, but that was.
I like that movie more than Vanilla Sky.
Hey, look, I'm not going to argue with you on that one either because I like Last Action Hero too. It's not the greatest, but
It's got a lot of fun things, and it's
yeah,
got a lot of fun things to say about how movies work and how
yeah,
movies are supposed to work. And Warfare is, I never expected to make this comparison. Warfare is a very clear counterpoint to
sure.
what you should expect out of a movie.
And I think that but the sound is just like this is what I noticed. I thought that the sound was very the point of view of the sound, and I'm pretty sure.
You mean the point of view from a given character at a
Yes,
given moment? Yeah,
but I think
it's very
that
powerful.
it was more than just a lot of times what they'll do in movies, and it's something that we actually discussed. We were talking about this the other day, and that is sometimes they'll do it where it's like, okay, something goes off like outside, and there's characters inside, and the characters outside it's muffled or whatever,
or they have ringing.
They recreate, and the characters inside everything's fine. It's very it's sort of like almost like binary, like okay, these people have the problem with the sound, these
Right,
people
they
don't.
can hear, they can't hear.
I
Yeah.
felt like they were very specific with the character, where some of them it was more muffled than others,
Right, yeah.
And I was like that's such care in like who was having, people were having, some people were having more ringing than muffled, and some people
Yeah.
were having, it was completely like, obviously the ones that were outside, that were right next to the guys that got messed up, it was very muffled, and it was just I think that the care that they put in to make that, pull that off,
Yep.
was just amazing. And just like,
I think you said something to me. I can't imagine it won't be nominated, but
Yeah.
so far this year, like that's your Oscar winner. That's the leading sound design
yeah,
movie that you've seen this year, and I mean it's very deliberate and thoughtful, and
I mean,
really well done.
of the movies that I have seen personally this year, I would say, like, sound design wise, I think Sinners and this, I'd be shocked. Sinners had really good sound design.
I'm
too.
making a really declarative face of agreement, but we're on the radio. So yes, I agree. Sinners also an amazing sound mix.
I thought that and I don't know if you have anything more to say about the sound. Do you think that was?
I mean, it's a huge part of the movie, and
Yeah.
there's a couple of movies in recent years, one of which I have not, I honestly been brave enough to watch yet, which is Zone of Interest, and then this one, which I don't know. For me, a big part of my experience of the movies is the sound,
Yeah.
and that's why I definitely don't see everything in the theater. That just doesn't work out that way. But I love to watch movies at home, and I have a setup that lets me hear a version of that, and it's very powerful. And for me personally, that takes the experience of watching a movie to a whole other level. But sometimes you watch a movie, it could be an older movie, it could be a movie that it wasn't important, and a jet flies over your head, and you hear it in the back of your room, and that's cool.
Yeah.
This is a different level.
Yeah, I think that honestly, if you don't have, I mean, it's a little, unless they do some kind of like a re-release. I mean, it's a little too late to see it now in the theaters. But I mean, if you do have the option to see it in a good theater, if they would do something like that, I would highly recommend it. But if not, if you have the opportunity to see it with really good surround sound, or in the case of what I did, I listened to it on some really good headphones.
Yeah, that's a really
it
good
was
idea.
crazy though. Like
Yeah.
it was almost disconcerting. Like those scenes where with the explosions, and it was a little weird actually, but it was good though. It was very
Yeah,
immersive.
I didn't get a chance to do it yet, but I want
You
to.
might want to try that.
I want to try that. I don't even know if I'll watch the whole thing or just certain scenes. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, when they're trying to go into the Bradley, that's pretty wild.
they go into the what?
Into the Bradley.
Oh, I thought you said a different word. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Bradley. Yes.
They I also I did like the I thought the editing, the pacing was really good. I mean, I know they're doing it in real time, but I just think that the idea of
Yeah, that doesn't mean it has to drag, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I thought everything was very brisk. I also thought.
Well, let me just say one thing about that.
Good.
I am not generally drawn to a movie because it's in real time. It doesn't put me off,
Yeah.
but it doesn't sound exciting, and I think it can feel kind of artificial if
Sure.
it's not done right. So like I like a lot of Brian De Palma movies, but I don't really care for Snake Eyes, the
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage one. And sometimes if something is a oneer, obviously that's real time, and that can be distracting. Like I noticed this really cool camera move, which is different than I'm noticing and feeling what the camera move is supposed to be delivering. Unless it's just for show, then fine. Hey, good job. But there's been some things that really worked for me in real time, and The Pit is one of them. That's a show that's on Max. It's a big hit, and every episode is another consecutive hour in an emergency room.
Sure.
And before the big event that takes their experience to another level, it's very intense because it's full of stuff happening. You can cut to any character and they're treating someone, and that person is probably having one of the worst days of their life, and all this kind of stuff, and it's very intense. And you stop noticing it as real time. You start feeling like you're watching what's happening in an emergency room, which, by the way, I've talked to a couple of different people who are medical professionals to varying degrees, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
that's totally
what I've
real."
heard, yeah.
One person I know had a comment about like a labor birth scene. They were like, "That was really the only thing." And doctors love to watch medical shows to bitch about them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been the truth of it, which is the opposite of something like 24.
Yeah.
Where it's supposed to be, you have to listen to me. I have to go torture someone, find a bomb, and all that kind of stuff. But by the time you get to, I don't know, hour 16 of the 24 hours, they're like, I guess his daughter should see a mountain lion. Like you don't have, it doesn't feel like they're forcing it. It feels like they put you in this house in Ramadi, again, with no context really.
Yeah.
And then this is when shit went sideways for them.
I think one of the things as far as choosing what to show, which is part of that whole process when you're editing, I thought that the two ending scenes, like you have all this chaos that's going because it's a slow build. You have them, they're sitting around, they're obviously bored inside the house, and the one guy is just the Elliot character watching the guys on the roof. Like it looks like maybe they're talking on cell phones, maybe they're looking over at them, probing tend to peek, and
right.
And then it builds and builds and builds, and then it's complete chaos, and then it's over, and the last two shots, and it breaks your heart because there are people. There was two families. It was an older couple, and then it was a family with like two or three young girls, and like people were bleeding all over the living room floor.
Yeah,
and
their home
blood
was destroyed.
Smeared. Yeah, and that's as they're leaving the Bradleys, because they weren't sure if there were guys on the roof. They had the Bradleys like destroying the roof on the building, the building where these people lived.
Yeah, it's a home.
And then it's silent. Once again, we have like the silence, and this family comes walking out of the bedroom where they've been hiding through the whole movie. Well, most of the movie, and
they've also been forced to stay.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
Well, yes. They've been forced to stay. Well, I mean, it's sort of like almost like what choice did they have? Anyway?
No, I understand, but I mean, the American soldiers didn't say, "We're taking this over. You guys can, run to safety."
Well, that's true too. Yes. So they were forced.
They were endangered.
Yes, and they walk out. And they walk into the living room. There's blood smeared all over the floor because they had two like critically wounded soldiers in there that were bleeding out, and then they cut to the empty street, and then you see one by one these
the insurgents,
insurgents, whatever what you would call them, coming out, and it's like, and it's just like that's the end, and it's just, it kind of just shows you also that it's just like life's just going to go on for them. It's
also
like
that nobody,
at the end of the day,
nobody killed a lot of the other side.
Yeah.
There's a lot of firing guns in this movie without looking, and there's a lot of like saturating areas with gunfire, and you don't see a lot of people. Like there's one guy right at the end who runs across the street, and one of the American soldiers fires at him, and he hits him, and the guy falls down as he runs out of view.
Yeah.
But it's not like a movie where every time you see somebody pop up on the roof and shoot at the American soldiers, that the American soldiers fire back, and then the guy falls down or falls off the building or whatever. I mean, I feel like, if you're telling me that a lot of modern warfare is incredibly violent and dangerous, there's also not a lot of accuracy, which makes it scarier because you are literally people are just shooting at you, and they don't care about you. They're just shooting at you.
It's all panic fire.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah. As far as the directing, I mean, I think this was a great idea to have somebody like you have an experienced director like Alex Garland being linked up with a his co-director Ray Mendoza, someone who has the experience to. I mean, I don't know, where someone like Ray Mendoza where he goes from here as far as
As far as filmmaking,
Yeah.
sure.
But it's a I do feel like they said when I read he did method directing where he kind of apparently was someone who apparently they did, and I know this happens a lot in war movies. These guys went through like 3.5 weeks of like a boot camp, which is apparently very common.
Yeah, does Dale Dye still do that? Because he was the guy that did all that,
I don't
and
know.
you'd recognize him because then he would have a small part in every movie. And
Yeah.
he looks like a soldier, and he has authority. And when you see him, you'll go, "Oh yeah!" Not only do I know who that is, of course he is a real, veteran, so he knows that.
Yeah.
But he's the guy that would run the camp. For the to get the actors for 3 weeks to crawl around in the mud and learn how to handle their weapons and maybe build up some camaraderie and all that kind of stuff. So,
But they said that Mendoza acted as like a commanding officer,
That's
telling
funny.
them what to do, and that was sort of like to kind of keep that military kind of, I guess, vibe, for lack of a better term, kind of going on set.
well, yeah, I mean, movie sets are there. You and I have both worked on them, and they are their own world, and
Yeah.
you hear stories about them, and some of them sound like horrific. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about all the abuse stories, which are not
no, you're
uncommon
talking
enough
like,
and everything.
actually like when they're actually filming.
Right.
Yeah.
Which also can involve a lot of abusive things, but it's like some of these just because when I first worked out on the first movie I worked on, everybody that worked on that movie had worked on Usual Suspects.
Okay.
And so they were experienced.
Okay.
And they would more than one person said like this is a nice set. Like
Yeah.
everybody's getting along and we're moving along at a good clip and we're getting stuff done because you want to make your day and all those kind of things. And they also would say, because they knew it was my first one, and some of them people were very nice, and they were like, just so you know, just because it's a nice set doesn't mean it's a good movie. And I said, well,
Yeah.
sure, that makes sense. Also,
Yeah.
I've read the script for this movie, and some of them said like a really nice set. Like if we have a really nice shoot, the movie will be bad. That's not fair. That's not true. I mean, people have made amazing movies, and
Yeah.
nobody says Spielberg screamed at me for 3 months and stuff like that. But it's interesting to hear the character of a set bleeds into the character of the movie and
Yeah.
the story they're telling, which I didn't know that was how. 'Cause I was curious. I didn't get a chance to dig into it too much, but he was not a consultant. He's a credited co-director.
Yeah.
And you're telling me what that looks like, and that makes sense. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I do think that that it was I'm sure that helped a lot, and I think it's just like I am interested to see sort of where he I don't know what else he's done, but he was definitely I think it's a good marriage to have someone with a you have someone like Alex Garland who has a pretty good list of credits, and then you have someone like that has the specific knowledge of the situation, subject matter that they are filming.
Well, I mean, this is not Ray Mendoza's only credit. This is his only credit as a writer-director.
Gotcha.
But he's acted. I'm looking
Okay.
at his credits, and he was a SEAL operator number 5 in a couple of episodes of The Terminal List, that Chris Pratt show.
Okay.
He was in a short. He was in that movie Act of Valor, which is 2012 already. So, and he's produced some TV series and things like that, and some documentary stuff. But this is a big time now.
Yeah.
He's a writer director, and will he do other projects with Alex Garland? Will he go off on his own? How will that work? I always liked. There's a joke about that, like what do real veterans do in the industry? I don't know if you remember. I love this movie, and I haven't seen it in years, so I wonder if I would still love it. Three Kings.
Yes. Oh no, I love that movie.
So I don't know if you remember, but at the very end of the movie, spoiler, you see the fate of some of these
Yeah,
characters, and you see George Clooney has become
Yeah.
a military advisor, and
Yeah.
he's showing Brian Bosworth's character, who you never seen, is just like supposed to be the star of the movie, and he's
Yeah.
showing him like how to hold it, and Brian Bosworth's attitude. I don't even think there's dialogue. It's kind of like, I got this, I got this, and George Clooney just kind of steps back, like, oh, whatever, okay,
Yeah.
and so Ray Mendoza will have, I think, if he has the opportunities, will have an interesting career, because it's certainly this does not feel like all of Alex Garland's other movies, although the level of craftsmanship and attention and deliberate approach definitely does. And maybe some of that, the realism that we get that's not just because Ray Mendoza said that's how I remember it. It's because he said that's how we should tell this story.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk about, usually for the older movies, but I think it's kind of important to mention here. Like I talk a lot about like era specific context, but I think with a lot of the stuff that when we talk about veteran mental health and PTSD, I think this is interesting.
Now that we finally talk about those things.
Yeah, I know that we finally do. I think this is an interesting movie because in the fact that we are seeing. This is the origin of that stuff that we talk about. This is why you have these guys that are really, when they come back, they're
not okay.
Yeah, they're not okay, and it's like, and this is why, and it's important to talk about these sort of things, and they don't, because there's a lot of these guys that I think there's a certain mentality that it's. That it's projecting weakness to admit that, hey, I'm not okay, and that and it's like, dude, you went through something that's horrific.
Yeah,
you can't expect that your mind is like your mind's not it's not a rubber band. It's not just gonna.
Oh, my aunt wrote a play about veterans after having come back home.
Yeah.
I know I'm biased.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good, and it really showed you people who are far out of the experience that continues to shape them.
Yeah.
And also it's really sad because part of that story is, which is not part of this movie, is, okay, well, what support do you get? Because veterans, come back from wars with different things and different things that have happened to them, and mentally and physically and all these things. And one of the things that this movie definitely shows you is how much modern warfare destroys these people without killing them.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think it's an important thing to talk about, and I think if this movie in some way can kind of, open up a conversation to talk. I mean that's nothing but positive to have that as to have that out there for people to maybe it's a conversation starter or a point, because I can't imagine, and this is something that I want to talk, that I'll bring as far as talking about this as far as sort of like talking about the success or failure of what this actually talked about. I can get a little more into it, but so I don't know if we want to talk about this, sort of like kind of bringing it home here for this particular.
Well, you sound both like you're in charge and also don't know what orders to issue, and that does not really work in the environment of warfare. So I'm glad that podcasting gives you a safer arena to be more indecisive.
Well, let me ask you. So, how do you feel about like what this movie, what it set out to do, and do you feel like it was what you think it set out to do, and how do you feel successful it was?
Well, I've said I think you should at least consider evaluating a movie on the basis of what did it try to do and did it do it.
Yes,
and that has helped me. I didn't consciously one day decide I'm not a snob. I'm gonna feel this way about movies. It's different. That's just how I engage with movies. That attitude, and that makes me able to enjoy a lot more movies. Because there are movies that are incredibly powerful and important and pieces of art about the human condition, and then there are movies like Wet Hot American Summer that has a very specific goal to a type of world and a type of movie to parody, and it kills it. and is still a legendarily funny movie. But this movie, while it definitely achieves what it sets out to do, and I think it does a very good job of it, and it puts us through the memories of these men into what happened, and again the screaming, genuinely upsetting, and obviously very real. It did remind me of a movie I did not expect it to remind me of.
Uh-huh.
And it was the complete lack of context, and in some ways a complete lack of meaning in the broader sense of what you might get out of a movie, especially a war movie.
Uh-huh.
It reminded me of my experience watching The Passion of the Christ,
Okay.
because I'm not Christian. I didn't grow up with all the the details of the story of Jesus and all these other things. And this movie really has the Passion of the Christ has no context at all.
Yeah.
Like, if you really watch the movie just straight, you don't really have any reference as to like, who is this guy and why is he being treated so horribly. And of course it's a Mel Gibson movie, so it's very, very bloody torture, and he does the Christ thing in every movie at this point, but and most of his career. But that's not a criticism. I have a lot of criticisms of Mel Gibson as a person, but he is a very powerful filmmaker. And to me, the only part of the movie that I got really emotionally involved in, other than like, ew, gross, was the very end. I know, obviously, Jesus, they put him in the tomb and then he comes back 3 days later or whatever. Spoilers. But, and some of it was the music that he used and stuff. But I think the last shot of the movie is this stairway into the tomb.
Stairway to Heaven?
And it was kind
Led
of.
Zeppelin?
Kind of.
They play the Stairway to Heaven?
Jesus walks up the stairs and pauses, and all you see of him is basically his wrist, and his hand has the hole in it from the crucifixion that we witnessed.
I thought he was going to turn and smile like the Joe Biden.
No, you don't
meme.
see his face. Right. You don't see his face or anything, if I'm recalling this right. And then that's what the sequel is that they're doing, the resurrection of the Christ. And to me,
What?
that's
There's a sequel.
Oh, yes, they might have
I
already.
thought the story was over.
They might have already finished it, and
I thought they're going to start merchandising it. There'll be books.
yeah, there'll be some very, very, very popular books. But to me, that's almost more interesting. Like, how is he going to tell that story? Because it's not just about turning a man into hamburger. And to find myself thinking of that movie that I personally didn't have a specific context for. I didn't have a lifetime of growing up with that story and Christianity and everything. It was weird that to me that it reminded me of this movie without context, because I think I know more about the Iraq War, because I lived through that time and remember it.
Well, which is funny because I had 12 years at Catholic school, and I was like, when the Passion of Christ came out, I said, nah, I'm good.
Oh, you didn't see it at all?
No, I didn't see that. I was like, I don't need to see that.
Yeah, I was almost, it's funny, we were talking about craftsmanship and stuff. I was almost really more interested, ultimately, I rented it and saw it at home, but I was almost ultimately, more than 20 years ago now, I was almost more interested in, they made a whole movie in Aramaic. Oh, yeah. And this is set in Jerusalem and during this period of revolt against the Romans and all that history that I love, and it's really interesting. And so I kind of looked at it as a craft thing as much as anything else, because as I said, Mel Gibson, he's not made a lot of movies, but he knows how to make a movie. Like Apocalypto remains a really exciting thriller and chase movie, and that's a craftsmanship thing. So I think that my reaction to the movie runs directly into what we were talking about before, which is, I don't like this movie because it's not what I want it to be. Yeah, I don't think that's a fair way to read this movie.
No, yeah, I agree.
So I think it is a success in that sense.
I mean, this is if I had to say the only problem that I did have, and I don't know, maybe it's because I listened to it on headphones. Sometimes when I was watching it, because it is so technically advanced as far as what they did, sometimes I did feel, and no, don't get me wrong, I did like the movie, but sometimes I did feel like it felt more like a movie experience than a movie.
I think that's fair. We are going to put you in modern combat is not the same as a war movie.
Yes,
I gotcha.
That's how I felt. But it wasn't. But it was like a great movie experience. But I did sometimes feel like, and which is very funny because I remember hearing you before when we talked about it, and I remember hearing you say, or I can't remember when it was, but it was sometime.
Well, come on, Scott. I know you hang on every word.
I know, but you had said something about. I had heard you say something about like, well, I heard there's really not much of a story, and I was so like, and it's funny because I was like,
Had you already seen it at that point?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I know there's a story, and there's definitely a story, and I was like, so, but it's funny, and so I was very like much like, like I had that in my head, like there's definitely going to be a story here because I mean, I just knew the basic premise, and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, well, there's a story, but there was something, and I think it's because of, it is like you said, there's sort of like almost no, without, because you don't know any of the real details behind what's actually happening, other than you just know what's happening in the moment in the story,
right?
And so it was, and I think that's what kind of made. So there is you are a little bit disconnected, but I will tell you though, you are. I think unless you're, I don't know. I was really, you're damn sure hoping these guys make it. You know what I mean? I think it's hard to. I mean, I'm not saying everybody will, but you definitely feel like you're like, man, it's so intense. You want them, you're invested, and you want these guys to make it through.
I do want to interrupt and say,
yes.
There will be spoilers in this episode. We will discuss the events of the movie and the fate of characters. Sorry.
Yes.
I like to say that at the beginning.
And I also will say that I do think they were very successful because a lot of stuff that I had read, just like in interviews and from Alex Garland and this other stuff I had read. I mean, like I try not to read any movie criticism, but I do read a lot of behind the scenes stuff and just stuff from like actors, directors, and things that see what they have to say. And they didn't want to. There was no glorification of war, and in fact, I do like how that false like patriotic bravado. They even made a point. That the one part. Remember when the other team comes in and there's that one asshole
who keeps stepping on sand,
keeps knocking into him. He's like, "You're a frog, man. That's just the paper cut." And they're like, and that guy Ray is like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" You know what I mean? Like they were so pissed.
And be careful.
Yeah, if there was any time in that movie where they were trying to make you feel something, I feel like that was the time where they were trying to make you feel like this guy's an asshole. You know what I mean? Like that was, but I feel like that was totally justified because he was being an asshole. It's like, shut the fuck up. He doesn't need to hear you. He doesn't at that point. You know what I mean? This wasn't like he had a cut and you were trying to pump him up. This guy is fucking like. I mean, it's like how heartbreaking when he's like, they're calling it in saying they have like critically, and he's like, "You're not talking about me, are you?" And
too severely injured. Am I one of the severely injured?
Yeah.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
And it's like, so you don't need this fucking dickhead coming in. Like, you're fine, man. It's nothing. Meanwhile, the guy's legs literally hanging on by like ligaments.
Well, it's like when I'm weightlifting and especially in a competition, and I've had the great fortune of having some really wonderful coaching, and coaching that also will say like, what don't you want to hear on the platform when you're in a meet? They're the coach. They should make the ultimate decision.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear if I'm going for, a personal PR in a snatch or something. I don't want to hear, come on, it's easy.
Ooh.
No, it's hard. And that's why it's cool that I can do it.
Yeah,
and that's why I want to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
and so to minimize
yes.
stuff like that's very much me personally. I don't like to hear people's problems minimized. And I don't think the guy that was doing that in the movie was trying. He was trying to say like, stay strong and you can get this and all this kind of stuff. But it's a kind of approach that's not. To me, it's not respectful of the reality of a guy who's been screaming for 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's one thing to support someone, but it's another thing to make it seem like what they're going through isn't. So it's like if I was like in the situation you were talking about with you, it's like if someone was like, I wouldn't mind if someone's like, you got this. I don't want to hear it's easy. It's like, fuck you. The whole reason I'm doing this is because it's hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I get what you're saying.
Like I know people that have that are married and then have become widowed.
Yeah.
And people don't. This is a totally different conversation about grief and how people handle witnessing it and stuff like that. But people, I'll sometimes hear, and I would never say this to a person. You're going to be okay. You're really strong. Fuck you.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
I have no reason to think that Sam the seal
Yeah.
isn't a strong guy.
Yeah.
I don't fault him for screaming when his legs have been turned into what you saw in the movie, which I presume, since Ray Mendoza was there and over him and helping him, was
Yeah.
pretty realistic. But there are things that the movie doesn't address, or almost doesn't address, that are part of the story of Iraq that I would like to see a movie that addresses that
Sure.
more, like the translators,
Yeah.
when they're going to go out and get the casualties picked up for their first try, which is when the IED goes up. Because remember, Elliot is essentially moderately injured. We don't really know how much. So Bradley comes and they're going to go out and put him in there. And the two translators, at one point, they put them at the front,
Yeah.
because they are using them to see who's shooting at them from where,
Yeah.
which is horrible.
Yeah.
But these guys say, if I go out into the street, I'm going to be killed. I think the way you're supposed to read that is what I just said, that they're bait. But I also read that as what really happened, which is, you collaborated with the Americans, I'm going to murder you.
Yeah.
And one of the translators gets literally blown in
Yeah.
half. His leg remains in the street through
Yeah.
the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And the other translator runs off, and we never hear from him
I
again.
think
And none of the soldiers
I think it's
ever reflect on that.
Yeah,
And it's just
very-
fine and realistic. That's fine. And there are movies, like I think the Kandahar and the Covenant are movies about
the
going back
Covenant,
and trying
yeah.
to get the Afghan translator that was loyal to me to get him out. But I'm interested in that story. I still haven't gotten around to seeing those movies.
But I think when it's I think that there's a deliberate sort of a point made when the other team links up with them and they go out and you see the body parts there and they're picking up the weapons.
Right. What gear is
right,
still in the
literally
street?
right
Yeah.
next to the guy's leg, and they're
Yeah.
picking up the the M16
And
or
including
whatever.
a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You got to
Oh,
get
yeah.
that sledgehammer.
I get that
Whatever. There's a
sledgehammer.
chunk of a person that's on our side that's
I
dead.
know,
But
I was like, I wouldn't care about the damn sledgehammer.
well, except that's the job.
No, it's true. And one of the other things too that really kind of hit me about this movie, as far as like kind of getting the point across, when like showing the horrors of war, and this is sort of hit me specifically as being a parent, and it reminded me that there's sort of a parallel here. When I saw Platoon for the first time, I was 18 years old,
Okay.
and there's some scenes in that are pretty rough.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I imagine. I
specifically-
haven't seen it in years, but I imagine they're still quite
scene-
unsettling.
Yeah, the scene where Tom Berenger shoots the guy in the head, the villager right in the head in front of everybody, and then there's also the scene where
That should
Kevin-
disturb you. I'm glad that it did.
Well, yes, and also where Kevin Dillon smashes the guy, the villager's head in with the butt of the gun. Very disturbing, and all I could think about when I watched that was that shit. Those guys were because I was 18 when I saw it. Those guys were my age, or right around my age when they're going over there and witnessing this sort of stuff.
And also remember, that's a film made by a guy who was there, right?
Yes.
So even if he didn't like this movie, Warfare is what actually happened as
Yeah.
we remember it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Oliver Stone witnessed everything that he sees in that movie. It's a
Yeah.
fictional movie, but I think what you felt in that scene that's real and therefore really disturbing is because, not that I couldn't write a movie that I've never experienced something and it could have a powerful emotional thing, but that is really upsetting, and that really did happen, and he may have seen
He
that.
probably experienced something.
Yeah,
at
he
least
may
close to
have. I
that.
don't know.
Yeah.
He may have seen it.
Probably something at least.
When
close
I
to
met
that.
him, he had 4 bottles of wine at dinner, so we didn't
But-
have a real detailed
But
conversation.
my point was to see that, then fast forward to now, and then what I think of is I have a 19-year-old son, I have a 17-year-old son,
Mm-hmm.
and I think about, I know we don't have a draft now, but who knows? You know what I mean? You never know, and I'm not, especially in just the way things are now. I'm not comfortable enough to be like, well, I don't have to worry about that for
Yeah.
my kid because I don't know that.
Well, also the one thing that could comfort you with that is, I think we're more likely to have a nuclear war, and you don't need infantry. for that,
Awesome.
so.
And then because I remember one of the things that I saw on YouTube. Here's something that really, speaking of not having a draft, I saw on YouTube. I actually watched so you found out if you were going on TV. They did the lottery, and they showed your birth date And so
You mean you're during Vietnam? You mean
Vietnam,
Yeah.
yes. So I'm watching the birth dates. My birth date, for everyone, anyone interested, December 30th. December 30th, the third one listed comes up, and I'm like, shit, I'd have been going. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
if your number was low enough, yeah.
Yeah. So those people, the people that were that's what happened with my uncle. My uncle was all of his friends had like these really high numbers, like they were like four. Like, I don't know how exactly the numbers were because they had your birth dates and then you were assigned a number based
Right.
on your birth dates. But there were
Unless
some numbers.
unless you had bone spurs.
Yes, you had bone spurs. But you had digits that were assigned, and everybody had like my uncle had like a 2-digit number. He went through basic training, and then they stopped sending people over.
Wow.
I know he was going. He
Yeah.
was
Wow.
going. He lucked out because that's not fun. So,
No, I agree with your assessment. That is not
just
fun.
like my assessment. Just my assessment of just, Jim Crow South is
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah,
not
that
great.
seems pretty bad.
Yeah. So me always with a great commentary,
Bringing
on
our
social
perspectives
commentary
to movies about Black America and military
and
service.
military service. So I don't know if you had anything else. I have my other little wrap up things before you the questions. and
Start
stuff like
rapping.
that. Okay. So did you have anything in particular that like a favorite quote or a favorite scene? I mean, I know this movie is kind of strange because it's like kind of like a little different. I mean, other than for me, it was basically it was just the sound design and like specifically when the way that they did the point of view sound design
Yeah.
after when they're going into the Bradley and it goes off.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that
Yeah.
more than other stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm looking at the IMDb page.
Yeah.
And it has things like trivia and filming locations and stuff. I clicked on quotes.
Yeah.
It looks like we don't have any quotes for this title yet.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's really there's nothing. I mean, it's I thought it was interesting the way that they did the whole thing with Eric William Poulter, where it was sort of like
it's
he's
just Will, I think. I think he goes by Will.
Does he go by Will?
I think so.
Oh, I will honor that.
I know you want to respect
I
the
wanna be
man's
respectful.
name. I don't think he's mad at you.
I hope not, because he kind of buffed up since We Are the Millers.
Yes, he's great.
So, but
he's the one from Son of Rambo, right? That was his first thing.
oh, was it?
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah,
Well, anyway, why did your light go on?
I don't know. That was weird. But whatever.
It's ghosts. Anyway, but he was, but just like kind of being like, he was like, hey, when he had to go into the room with the family and sit down, he was like, I'm like that, that IED like fucked him up. He was like, I'm all fucked up.
That's why he says at a certain point in the movie, like he says to Charles Melton, who's also wonderful in the movie, I will say. He says, like, I need you to take over.
Yeah.
I can't do this. And that's not, I'm afraid, I'm paralyzed. He's like, I am injured and I cannot do my job. And it is
And
not.
kudos
it
to
is
him
not.
because
Yeah, it's
not
not
a lot of people
safe.
want to give that up.
Right, but it's also not. It's not right for the men I command.
Yeah. And did you see James Gandolfini's son, Michael Gandolfini?
Yes.
He was the.
He was good.
He was the radar guy.
As we're talking about it, I'm finding the characters more distinct and more memorable, and that's good.
Yeah.
Also, but I think of them as like, that's the guy whose ankle turned the wrong way. That's the guy who was blown in half.
I tripped.
That's the guy who put morphine into his own thumb by
Oh, I
mistake.
know that was James Gandolfini.
Yes, it
Oh,
was.
Michael Gandolfini.
Yes, it was.
Is there any projects that you'd like to see from any particular types of future projects that you would like to see Alex Garland do?
Well, I'm curious to see what Ray Mendoza's career is.
Yeah,
as
Ray
I said.
Mendoza, yeah.
But I mean, I there's not any reason that I haven't gotten around to seeing Men or Devs, and I want to see it. But I just really like Alex Garland, the movies that he's written. I
Do
like
you know what he's
or really
doing
like
next?
them.
Did
And
you
I-
see what he's doing next?
And I haven't seen 28 Years Later yet. What is he doing next?
He's doing the Elden Ring, the video game. He's doing the
Oh,
movie
really?
based on- I know, isn't that like that? That's
weird.
I would never have guessed that.
That'd be like finding out the guy who did Moon is going to do the World of Warcraft movie.
Yeah.
Like what a weird left turn. You know?
You know what'd be interesting? I think he could do if they did, and I think this is a movie that needs to be updated, but like they could do it like in a more serious sort of way, something like a movie like Enemy of the State, like the Will Smith, Gene Hackman movie. Mm-hmm. Like I could see
Shot in Baltimore.
yeah, I could see him doing something like that, but like doing it like in a like treating it like not like a Tony Scott.
I was going to
action
say,
movie.
yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, also keep in mind that Enemy of the State, which is not a bad movie.
No, it's
I
not a bad
remember
movie.
seeing it. I haven't seen it in a long time, but and that's Will Smith.
Yeah.
and his performance really slaps in that movie. But mostly, it's Gene Hackman who I love. But
Yeah.
that is essentially a shadow of the conversation.
And it's funny because I would say he could do something like that.
Yeah,
He could go more into the conversation.
I mean, he certainly has the inclination to do the sound design of a movie like that. But
I think it would be terrifying though, because we thought Enemy of the State, we watched that and we were like, oh my God, they can do all that.
right,
That's what we thought. And what was that? 98,
I
or
think,
something
yeah.
like that. And we were like, we were so shocked that they could track him running across like a rooftop. And that was in 98. So
oh, that was another part of the movie was the drones, where
Oh, yeah.
you hear the voices of the people reporting
Yes,
what they
yes,
see,
yes.
and you're seeing the heat vision. So they're saying that was really the only way I started to get a sense of the geography, and the only reason I could tell where they were on the thermal imaging is because there were still little flecks of white phosphorus burning in the street in front of that house.
Oh, I
So
didn't
as
even
they
catch
moved
that.
through the blocks of the town, and they said this group just met up with this group, and they're 100 meters away and stuff, I was like, oh, I know where they're going now because I can see it. So
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess really just when it comes down to it, as far as if we to wrap this up, I guess not to be too cliche, but I kind of feel like what this movie said to me is that war's hell. I mean, I know that's such
It
a cliche.
is?
It is, but it can be such a distant concept to people, and I think I kind of appreciate that you have someone out there.
to Americans at least.
Well, that's true, but because
Look, there are people in London whose
true.
grandparents lived through the Blitz. We don't have anybody that lived through the Civil War.
have I told you this story that my uncle's father went through D-Day. He
Oh,
was a radio
wow.
operator.
Wow.
He told me when I saw Saving Private Ryan, and I'll keep this brief because I know we're like overtime now. Anyway, but he told me the story about guys drowning trying to take the radio equipment off.
Yeah.
And when I saw
Wow.
on Saving Private Ryan, I was like, oh shit, he told me these stories.
Wow.
He said the guys were trying to take their radio, they were in the water and they couldn't get their radio equipment off fast enough and they were drowning.
And it's not even
Because that's what he did.
right. And it's not even just the radio equipment. He was being even more trouble. Did he go onto the beach on D-Day?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So he was saying that the guys were trying to get the radio equipment because the
crazy.
radio equipment was heavy. But that's what he did.
Yeah.
He was a radio operator.
Wow.
He actually when he came home, he ended up working for AT&T. But let me tell you though, as far as proximity to war, he met my uncle's mother. She was from Ireland, living in London she was a nurse. They were bar hopping, went to a bar, then went to another bar, like a block or two over.
You could say they hopped to another bar.
They hopped to another bar.
Mm-hmm.
That bar got bombed that they had just been at.
Wow.
So that's pretty wild. That's a wild
Yeah.
story. But this goes to speak to, the proximity to war. I mean, we don't. That is a privilege that we have as Americans because of our geography.
Yeah.
Really, when it
Yeah.
comes down to it. So I mean, unless you believe Red Dawn. So
Which one?
does it matter? Isn't we get invaded in either both of us?
I like both of those movies, but I didn't regard them as a realistic.
No, I'm being.
Cuba's invading Colorado.
What the hell?
Why?
I know, really. Well, anyway, that's a wrap on warfare, and we'll be back next time to overanalyze another movie from script to screen. That's what I'm sticking to from now on.
It's better than underanalyzing it. I liked the movie. I thought it was good. Is not the way that I think you can get the most out of a movie. It's okay if that's how you engage with movies, but it's not much of a conversation.
Who said that?
Anybody that's not a geek like me.
I got you. We're gonna do 100% AI episodes from now on. So
Well, I'm friends with ChatGPT now. It's helping me plan a vacation, so I'll talk to it.
awesome. I'll talk to Gemini or Claude. So,
Wonderful.
And then we'll and then they all three of them can host the podcast.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, until next time, story matters.